Hello, welcome back. Sorry, I've been a little all quiet on the Western Front here. Had a camping trip. 2021 has just been kind of a brutal year. I think we're all sort of seeing the psychological impacts of all the shutdowns and a year without in-person school, which was probably totally unnecessary because kids don't really spread COVID-19. So we're seeing a lot of those. I'm certainly seeing those in my family and in my personal life. Not to get too far into that, but things have been kind of hard uh, for a lot of reasons, economic, psychological, familial, all that. Things have been really tough this year. And I have not been doing great, but I have a lot to be grateful for still, so I'm not going to complain. But just, to sort of get into my mental space a little bit, it's been weird. It's been rough. And, no end in sight. So with that being said, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the Biden vaccine mandate, which liberals are cheering and conservatives are pissed off about. And then there's a few people sort of who don't care if they're liberals or conservatives. I mean, I've always considered myself as on the left, but these days I just think that I'm against that I think that the thing that my motivating politics is anti-authoritarianism and freedom and nonviolence, a politics of kindness and compassion and humility, I think, because the problem with a lot of these sort of big government solutions that we see is that they have no humility. There's a lot of hubris involved. Whether that's, invading Iraq or in Afghanistan, which was, an act of foreign policy hubris of monumental proportion, or whether it's mandating that all employees with over 100 or all companies with over 100 people have to have them vaccinated, as though the federal government has the power to tell companies or workers that they have to put a substance in their body that they don't necessarily trust. And I'm vaccinated and I'm happy to be vaccinated. I freely chose to be vaccinated, however, and I think I would bristle at the idea that I had to be told what to do in this regard. I realize that school districts, they mandate vaccines and you can get around the vaccine mandates at schools, but they mandate vaccines that have been around for a really long time that are for, viruses that traditionally have been devastating to children, like polio, smallpox, things like that. The COVID, I think the COVID-19 vaccine is probably safe. It seems to be. Millions of people have been vaccinated, but it's still relatively new. People have every right to wonder, what are the long-term effects? How will this play out in a decade? Do I really, do I want to roll the dice? Or maybe I've already been sick with COVID and I feel like that's enough for me. Whatever the thing is, it's their choice what to put in their bodies. I have a similar view on abortion. I think it's a woman's choice to carry a pregnancy to term within reason. Obviously, I think there should be some sort of time limit in place, and most countries have one. The Texas law that recently came out, I think, is bad for a lot of reasons. I think it's too limited. I think that the bounty system where you can sue people over getting an abortion is absolutely fucking crazy. But I think there's a similarity between that bill and a vaccine mandate, in that it's the government telling us what to do with our bodies. And frankly, that's bullshit. That's authoritarianism. If I want to put marijuana or heroin in my body, I should have that. That should be my right. If I don't want to eat pork, the government should not tell me that I have to eat pork. If I don't trust big pharma because of a litany of reasons, including the opioid epidemic, the placing of profits over people in truly egregious and horrific ways, if I don't trust big pharma and I don't trust the government, now we have these giant multi-billion-dollar corporations working side by side with the government, telling us we have to have this thing put inside our bodies if we work for a company with this many people. Now, the companies mandating this, I think it's a little less horrible, but considering that, like, in in this particular economic and political climate, big tech and big government work hand in hand far too much. There's not a huge difference between the government telling Google that they have to they have to vaccinate their employees. Their employees have to get vaccinated, and Google doing it, because the boundaries between big tech and big government are blurry. Between big business and big government are blurry. I'm not suggesting we live in a fascist society, but I am suggesting that we come pretty close sometimes. A lot of the time, actually. There's been other instances throughout our collective history of government deciding that they know best what to do with our bodies. For instance, Native American women were sterilized when white doctors on the reservations would deliver a baby. They would take out that uterus while they're at it, without informing these women, which is just a form of genocide, essentially. So it's not crazy to mistrust the government. I think you should get vaccinated because I think that the more people get vaccinated, the quicker we end this thing. But I'm not going to tell you have to. And I'm going to absolutely stand up for anyone's right to say they don't want to do something with their body that they don't feel comfortable with, and that the government and big pharmaceutical companies, big business in general shouldn't be able to tell us what to do with our bodies either. So that's pretty much where I stand on this. I hope that more people get vaccinated, because I do think, the sooner we can put an end to this fucking awful thing, the better. But I think that this is authoritarianism rearing its ugly head, and frankly, it makes me not want to vote for Democrats next time. There's a lot of actually, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons I don't want to vote for Republicans or Democrats. It's still puzzling to me that we only have these two options, really. You can vote libertarian or socialist or whatever, but it doesn't do much good, right? This is how our system's set up. But all right, Biden, not a super impressive president so far. Not the worst president ever. Just But some of these, where I would say the party is headed towards really kind of egregious authoritarian solutions to the vaccination issue, going against his own word about a mandate also, that is enough to pretty much turn me off to Democrats. Because while I'm all in favor of helping the poor and having a more compassionate body politic in general, I think that forcing people, many of these people who are working class people, many of these people are people of color, forcing people to either choose between their job, between constant testing, or between putting something in their body, that's absolutely fucking crazy. And I'm against mandatory, drug testing for most workers also. I think there are some where companies have every reason to test truck drivers, people working in very dangerous equipment or large trucks. I can see why they, require drug tests. But there's drug tests for lots of, menial jobs that don't require any sort of particular, and that's just classist. And this whole thing is creating a class division that I really find, on the one hand, some of these stimulus efforts had a statistically kind of insane impact on diminishing poverty, which is kind of cool. I mean, I want to see less poverty, right? On the other hand, we're seeing things like, the Met Gala, where AOC and other, the rich and famous and walking around without masks, and all of the attendant workers walking around in masks. And I've even noticed that in my own life, just going out to dinner or something, and you don't have to wear a mask, but all the waiters wear masks. And I think to myself, all right, if we're all vaccinated, why do we have to wear masks? And it is becoming this weird class division thing that I find pretty perturbing, and I think we should all sort of find that perturbing. In a similar way, I was just writing today about how we should stop masking children. Children don't need to wear masks. COVID does not affect children. Statistically, it's much less dangerous than a lot of other sicknesses that impact children. And yet we make them all go to school all day in fucking masks. I'm sick of it, and I'm sick of the idea that if a kid does contract COVID, almost universally it's either asymptomatic or a common cold. You gotta quarantine all the other kids. It's crazy. Other countries like Ireland and European countries don't do this. Why we're doing it, I swear to God, it's all about, I mean, I wouldn't say it's about a power grab, but I think it's just as much about a culture war. And you have this culture war going on. The vaccine's part of the culture war now. I always thought it was funny that video games were such a big part of the culture war, but now it's like a vaccine. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that. I've been told I should keep my videos shorter and not ramble on so long, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow through with that goal. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and yeah, sorry for the little hiatus there. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.